Hey y'all, I'm Nick Pomeroy with PR Equipment here at Currens, Texas. Today we're in Currens. Of course, we got stores in Currens and Canton, Texas. And we're getting to do another comparison video. I love doing these comparison videos, and I know y'all mostly love them, and some of y'all absolutely freaking hate me when I do these. But I love the comments either way, and we get a lot of engagement. Just quickly, we've been trading for a lot of case tractors. I have no idea why. I don't know why that's in particular case tractors, but we've been trading for a lot of case tractors. And this is a case tractor behind me. It's a 2020 model. It's a 120C. Now I pulled specs to make sure that they didn't change because I didn't want anybody saying, hey, you know, it's an older tractor versus a newer tractor. And this is clearly a used tractor. It's got about 500 hours on it. But I wanted to kind of get a comparison to what do we have in the lineup that kind of compares to this. And I'll be honest with you, when I have quite a bit of experience with case tractors. When I first started in this business, I was a technician at a case dealership for quite a long time. So I've got quite a bit of experience with case tractors. But you know, I love doing these comparison videos, and so we got this 120C, and so we thought we'd talk about it a little bit. It's a little hard to get a good comparison in a Massey product. I was actually kind of taken back when I started kind of looking at this to understand, you know, what do I have in my product lineup that compares to it? And the truth is, not a lot. And so I've actually brought in two tractors. On one side, I've got a 4710. This is a 4700 series that comes in a 7, 8, 9, and 10 series. So it's 70 to 100 horsepower on this tractor. And I brought in my 6712. And so my 6712 is my 120 horsepower tractor that you can get in 120 or 130 horsepower. So you're probably asking, why is the 100 horsepower involved? And I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes with the specs and why the 4710, the 100 horsepower tractor, is actually more tractor than the 120 horsepower case. And I know they got other models, and I'm sure somebody in the comments is going to be like, you know, hey, what about this model? I get that. I just want to compare these though, because it's what I have. But the 120C is kind of unique. I started kind of digging into it, and I had a lot of questions, or it kind of took me off guard a little bit. So with the 120C, it's a 3.4 liter motor. It's the same motor that they use in a much smaller tractor. The weight was also something that really surprised me. I'm just going to go right to the numbers here. But with the case tractor, this is 8,157 pounds for a 120 horsepower tractor. I'm going to walk over here and talk about the 4710. This is my 100 horsepower tractor with a 3.3 liter motor, 100 horsepower, and I've got 8,644 pounds. Keep in mind, I've got a 70 horsepower tractor just like this. So I've got a 70 horsepower tractor with a base weight, and I'm coming right off specs of both manufacturers' website. I'm not making this stuff up. Neither spec includes the loader either. But I've got 500 more pounds of weight in my 70, 80, 90, and 100 horsepower than Case does in this 120C. And the C model is I don't know, it's not their top model, but it's kind of their more premium option. The A is kind of the cheaper version, and then the C is kind of maybe the little bit nicer, a little bit few more of the creature comforts. A few other things I thought were kind of interesting. The hydraulic flow on this Case 120C is 16.9 gallons per minute. On my 70, 80, 90, and 100 horsepower, we have 17.2. So we've actually got just a little bit more hydraulic flow in my smaller tractor than they do in this 120C. So I thought that was kind of unique. Another thing to talk about, and I want to get into the 120 that we're going to compare it to in a minute, but the wheelbase. So, you know, the length of the tractor matters a lot. So the weight matters a lot because that's going to be ride, that's going to be obviously balance, that's going to be comfort. The weight matters a lot, and obviously traction. There's so many things that weight does for us in these tractors. And I love when we're talking about weight of the tractor. There's a lot of manufacturers that use cast iron rear wheels and stuff like that to add what I would like to call artificial weight or ballast, right? I love talking about the weight that comes in the actual drivetrain of the tractor. I think it's just super important. It just talks a lot about how heavy the tractor's built. Now, you know, we'll get into some other parts of that in a second, But the other thing that matters is that wheelbase, and so that's how long the tractor is. And I mean, for some of you, y'all might be saying, hey, I need the 120 horsepower and I like it in a more compact size. And for y'all, hey, this probably is a great option. But for most of our customers, they're using it on their farms. They want more tractor. And so the wheelbase between these two tractors is actually almost identical. I think it's 1 inch longer here with the 120 versus with the Massey. So all things considered, these two are very comparable tractors. And I almost pulled a 4707 up here, which is a 70 horsepower. And just to show you that, hey, this is a 70, this is a 120, and they're basically, you know, very similar tractors. But there's just a lot of differences between, you know, these tractors here. And I really wanted to talk about this 6712 because, and it's probably worth saying, this tractor is cheaper than this one for sure. But I guess my point is, what do you get for your money, right? And so that's where I wanted to talk about this one. So this is my 120 horsepower tractor, 4.4 liter motor. So 1 more liter of motor, right? It's just a lot more stout, a lot more displacement of an engine. But where the real differences start to show up is beyond that as well. So on that tractor, here again, we talked about the 8,100 pounds, the base weight with the cab 4-wheel drive. And then we've got our 6712 over here. Our 6712 weighs 10,187 pounds. It's 2,000 pounds heavier for this 120 horsepower tractor. Another kind of striking spec would be the hydraulic flow. We've got over 26 gallons a minute of hydraulic flow versus the 16.9 that's over here. What does that even mean, right? That means your loader's gonna work faster. You're gonna have a more responsive loader. Maybe you're doing baling and that tailgate's gonna work quicker. There's just a lot that comes along with it. Wheelbase of this tractor. This tractor's almost 9 inches longer. So 90 inches over here, 98.5 inches over here. It's just significantly more in terms of the length of the tractor. It's just overall, it's just larger. We're gonna put that power to the ground better. We've got a larger tire package. We've got, honestly, and one thing I like to point out, because you don't think about this a lot. A lot of times y'all aren't really considering this, but this tire that's on here is called a Cinzo. I've never heard of this tire brand in my life. The front one's a Galaxy. Let me make sure. Let's look over here. Okay. I think they use Galaxy tires, but the back left tire had to be replaced for whatever reason. So it's a Galaxy tire. And I believe it's a bias ply. Yeah, so it's a directional. I believe this is a bias ply, but I'm not sure. So I don't really want to put this out. It might be a radial, but come over here. We use these premium trailer board tires. I'm a huge fan of these trailer board tires. Just a much better. They're radial tires. You spend a little bit more money for a premium tire, but you get a more premium tire. So talking a little bit about that. While we're back here though, let's talk a little bit kind of from the rear of the tractor. I think there's some pretty striking differences when we start to look at maybe 3-point linkages and controls and things like that. Keeping in mind, this is the C, this is not the A. The A is even maybe, I'd say maybe a little bit more crude, but this is the C, so it's a little bit more of the premium. But when you start to look at the rear end, one of the first things I see is it just kind of feels a little bit more crude, maybe not such clean in the castings and things like that. And I'm kind of picky about castings. I grew up in a cast iron foundry, and so I'm a little bit more picky. But then you start to notice, you know, some of the options. So we do of course have the trailer plug, and we've got a couple remotes. This has got 2. It comes standard with 2, but I believe you can add a 3rd, just like we can on our tractor. The 3-point linkage is something that I think is pretty striking. And in some of my other comparison videos, I've gotten out the tape measure. I'm not going to do that here because honestly, this tractor really doesn't compare either direction. But looking at some of the 3-point linkages and how heavy this is, and it is an internally lifted 3-point system. So you can tell that that's in that top cover of that rear end. From my technician days, I remember that. Not a bad way to do that. Hard to service. Let's look at the 4700 over here. So we're going to use these dual external cylinders on the 47 and the 67. So there's going to be a lot of similarities here. This one's spec'd with 3 remotes. You can spec it with 2 remotes too, but you've also got flow control if you go with 3 remotes. I love that it's got a greasable, God, forgot that name. But anyway, it's got the greasable shaft going through there for the 3-point controls. They both have telescopic linkage, but it's just a lot heavier. Lot more steel in our hitch, in our drawbar support. One other thing I really like is these are telescopic, but they also kind of move up and down. When you're hooking up a 3-point implement, that's really nice. But if you kind of look at our rear end and our casting and all that, it's just more robust, and it just feels like it's a little bit cleaner on the engineering, maybe more steel lines and things like that. Stepping back over to the case. So I thought on the C they went away from this, at least on the 120. But for your 3-point controls, this is the way they do it on the A's, and I guess maybe all C's. Maybe the larger A's they don't. I'm not really sure, because I didn't think that they still did this on the 120. I know on the 100s and the 75s they use this, but they got this kind of mechanical linkage because it's a mechanical hitch, right? They can't do anything too fancy with it because it's mechanical. But on this, you're going to pull it out, and this is how you can control your hitch from the rear of the tractor, which is good. That's good. But let's compare that to what the Massey does. And we do have an electronic hitch here, so we can use our 3-point fender controls on either side of this tractor. So you can adjust that from here or here, just a little bit more of a premium feature. Let's walk over to the 6713. So when we step up to our 120 horsepower tractor, look at the size of these 3-point cylinders. This has got in fact, let me just tell you exactly the lift capacity of this. So the case has 4,333 pounds of lift on the 3-point. The Massey has 9,400 pounds, twice as much lift capacity on the 3-point. A little bit more premium on our valve setup. I think you can order this with 2 valves, but honestly, if I'm ordering a 6712, I'm always ordering it with 3. Very heavy rear end, very heavy 3-point, super heavy drawbar support. This is inch thick plate, right? And we're doing 8 bolts. It's just a much heavier tractor than what the case is. And once again, I'll repeat it. I know that this is a little bit cheaper. I just want you to see what you're getting for the money. So just a big difference from the rear of the tractor. Now let's kind of go up front. Let's talk about the cab a little bit. So kind of climbing up here in the cab, I will give Case a New Holland, because this is obviously, it's got a New Holland variant to this. I don't know what the number is, but it's probably like a Power Star 120, I think. But there is a blue variant to this tractor. I will give Case credit that they do always provide the buddy seat, which we do as well, but some of your green tractors do not. So one of the first things that you're going to notice, and here again, I didn't bring a tape measure. I'm not telling you this for fact. What I'm trying to do is encourage you to come check these tractors out. Like if you're shopping a Case or a New Holland, I highly encourage you to come check these tractors out. But one of the first things I notice is the cab is small, right? Everything feels very much condensed. Everything's very tight. We talked about the mechanical controls for the 3-point. I'm not saying that's bad. When you start to get into these larger tractors, you just expect a little bit more. You know, you got your lighting, everything, you know, a lot of stuff on the pillar, but the whole cab just feels a lot smaller. I'm going to leave that for you to decide. Come check out these tractors and then you can tell me. The controls for the transmission, it's a 12x12 transmission. I know there's a 24x24 option for this, but you got 3 ranges and 4 gears. You do have a hydraulic power shuttle. However, remember this. I want to come back to this when we hop up in the cab of one of the Masseys. It's just a very simple kind of forward and back kind of thing, which is a-okay. But I'm going to show you. I'm going to contrast that with what we see in the Massey. But overall, the loader controls, it's not bad. The seat, I'm not a huge fan of. It is air ride, so hey, kudos on that. It does swivel and things like that, but I would highly encourage you to check out the seat in one of these tractors and then come check out a Massey seat, and you can be the determining factor there about which one is better. I think you'll clearly see that the Massey seat's a much more premium seat, regardless of whether you go 4710 or if you actually go 120 horsepower tractor. So I think you'll see either way. That makes a lot of sense. Other than that, I mean, everything's, I'm not a huge fan of this, but I know that I'm probably biased. I really want y'all to try to check those both out. But everything's laid out. You got all the controls there. I'm gonna climb in the cab of the 4710. It's basically the same cab as the 6713, or the 6712, a few different options, but we'll climb up here. So this cab just feels better. Our buddy seat kind of stows away here. We can lock that in place. It seems to be a little bit bigger buddy seat, but I don't know that for a fact. But remember we was talking about this shuttle lever? This is one of my favorite things about these Massey tractors. It's the same on all the 67s, the 57s, the 47s, but that's your power shuttle control lever. And you've also got this dial that you can adjust the shuttle, which is really nice to be able to adjust the shuttle on the fly. Maybe it's too aggressive, maybe it's not aggressive enough. You can adjust that sensitivity right there. But one thing we also have, we have a kind of another functionality here that they don't, and that's if you need to stop for a little bit. So why would I want to do that? Well, typically, let's say we're bailing, right? And so we're bailing along and we need to come to a stop. I can just pull up. I don't have to do this, and I do not have to clutch. So I can pull up on this, leave it in place, and then when it's time to go again, just let it down back into place and we're good to go. And that to me is just a premium feature that I think is worth checking out. You know, I think, and just kind of looking at this, one of the other things I think that kind of makes this feel maybe a little bit larger is it's got a smaller kind of center column, which maybe leaves a little bit more room, but it's a nice feature. I think the seat in here is premium, but I think you should check it out for yourself. We also have a 12x12 transmission. This tractor happens to have Dyna 2. I'm not going to get into that because it's not a fair comparison with the case. But one of the things I really like is the D-clutch button. So I've got 6 gears and 2 ranges, but on this I've got a D-clutch button. So when I push the button, I can shift on the fly. I don't have to clutch it. So that's just a really, really nice feature. The joystick's well laid out. Everything's proportioned well there. It is a electronic hitch, as we saw that the buttons on the back. Fantastic option. And we do have an engine speed memory button there as well. Other than that, they both have a lot of the same functionality. So both, good in terms of, what they do. The functions are very kind of similar. Differential lock. I should mention, we do have a front diff lock on the Globals, the 47s and whatnot. And I don't think, it doesn't look like that they do on the case. I want to show you a couple things on the 6712 though. So these tractors just came back from the American Rodeo. So they're a little dirty. They got to go back through and get re-washed. But hey, if you are looking for a good deal on the tractor, we do have these American, the rodeo. These were all used at the American Rodeo. They've got a handful of hours just pulling an arena drag. Got some good deals on them. So a couple things that I want to talk about here. So we got our 3 remotes. One thing I should mention, we can lock our remotes in place. So if you've got a hydraulic valve option, that might be something you're interested in. We have a more premium hitch on our 6712, so we got more functionality. So a couple things that we can do here. If you have it all the way up, you can actually suspend the rear hitch, right? So you can let it float a little bit. So let's say I'm carrying a bale. Rather than let it buck the tractor, it'll let the hitch kind of just move just a little bit to take some of that brunt off of there. But we also have more functionality in our hitch. So draft control, which the case has draft control. It's mechanical, but it does have draft control. We can also control the speed of our lowering. I'm assuming you can do that on the case, but it's probably a mechanical knob. And we can also set our upper limit. I'm a big fan of upper limits. A, you can get back in the ground faster if you don't come up so high. But B, if you've got a short coupled PTO shaft or something like that, that at the upper limit, it can maybe get in a weird bind or something like that. I like to set that upper limit to where we can control the throw of that 3-point. One more thing, we talked about the hydraulic flow. So the way that the Massey does it, it's kind of, like you used to call it like combined flow, where we can pull 2 hydraulic pumps. So the main tractor hydraulic pump and the 3-point pump, we can pull those together with this blue switch and access all the hydraulic flow from both pumps to do our loader functions, to do our rear, auxiliary functions. So if you're not using that 3-point, we can utilize that flow to work better. Finally, we have lots of loader options. I think Case has 2 loader options for their tractor. We have 3 loader options for our tractor. But we have another function that on the loader that's pretty cool, and I didn't talk about it a lot, but we have basically soft ride. So as we talked about soft ride for the rear hitch, we also have soft ride for the front loader. It allows it to float, so you'd be really surprised if you had a bale in the front and the bale in the back and you're going across the pasture and you put both of them in kind of that float mode. It's a much smoother ride. So you kind of couple that with the additional weight and the additional wheelbase, and we're going to have a much more comfortable ride. But just overall, we've just got more tractor. So kind of just summing this up, this isn't really a fair comparison either way. I get that. Our 4710 is cheaper, but not quite as much horsepower. Now you do get more tractor, or at least I think you do. But where the 120, our 6712 is going to be more money than the 120C, and I'd love to tell you the exact prices, but I don't know where every dealer is at on this 120C. I think it's about $95,000. I think, but I could be wrong. So I don't really know, but I know that from what I can tell, that's kind of in the ballpark of where it's around. But from every vantage point, even lighting, we've got more lighting on the front of our tractor. There's just a lot to like about the Massey, and as they say, you get more with Massey. But I invite you to come check that out and see if you agree. Come check out the tractors, and if you come out soon, we might actually feel free to buy this Case 120C off of us. We've got several more Case tractors coming in. We'd be glad to kind of show you those as well. If you are looking, maybe you're a Case guy and you want to stick there, I get it, you got a great dealer. Let's say one of our used tractors. We got some Maxim coming in. We got the 120C. I think there's a 115U coming in. We've got several different models of these Case tractors, so there's lots to look at. But I truly believe that you get more with Massey. I'd love for you to come check these out. If y'all, as always, if y'all got any questions, reach out to us here at PR Equipment. We've got lots of trained salespeople that would love to talk to you about what maybe that looks like to get more with Massey, but also like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube. Leave a comment down below and tell me that I'm full of it. That's what I usually get. So leave a comment down below. But I just invite y'all to come when you're shopping for a tractor. Just give us a shot. Thanks.